Welcome viewers. We have with us Mr. K. Satish Kumar. Mr. Kumar, welcome to Business World. So I'd like to know from you what is the evolving role of GCs in the current business scenario, if you
Yeah,
can comment.
GC plays a very critical role in the industry. They are leaders, they are also board members, and it's important high time that GC should also be a key KMP. In any we have to amend the company law board, and GC should be a KMP. Like a CFO or a company secretary, GC should also be a KMP. It comes along with this obligation, but there are now it is not just legal; it's a business advisory role that the GC
Definitely,
takes.
definitely.
So I think it's very critical that you recognize GC in the growing business scenario, whether it be mergers and acquisition, whether it be deal finalization, whether it be litigation, alternate dispute resolution. Wherever you see, you don't go take a step out without consulting a GC. I think that is how the evolving phase of a general counsel is going to be in future. The role is very critical, indispensable role. All in all major decision making, the GC will be there.
All right. So it is the role now. It has shifted from the traditional law advisors to now a decision maker, as you have rightly pointed
Correct.
out. If you have to give me some of the parameters, because the decision making is very critical thing, and the parameters that you include while coming to a decision, what are those parameters?
See, as a GC, it is not just legal that we have to take care. We have to also take care the fact that we have to keep in mind, we have to enable the business. We are enablement leaders, business enablement leaders. We are not just here. We are not here to say no to any business. We are here to say how a business can function.
All right.
So it's very critical. We have to understand the business. We have to understand the law. We have to understand the compliance. We have to understand the jurisdiction in which it operates. We operate across the globe. So the role of the GC now is, as I said, is evolving. You have to keep multiple things in your mind before you take a decision. So these are some of the critical things that I said you should keep in mind while you take a decision.
Okay. So when it comes to IPs, it is very interesting thing because the digitization that we are going through as in India, and Mr. Modi has rightly pointed out that India is in a track to be 1 billion digital economy. In those times, patent rules becomes very important, IP rule. So what are the standards that we use, and because there are international standards like WIP and we are a part of TRIPS also. So how important is the IP thing?
IP is very critical for any industry, and more so for a IT industry. But it's unfortunate that the general awareness of IP is not so much. So you over a period of time, the role of the GC is also to bring in awareness among the business leaders in the organization of how critical a IP is, and what a better a person than I am. I have in my career taken up many IP enforcement in a IT industry. So if you are not able to say bring in awareness, or if the IP is not registered, your organization will be have that much more disadvantage while enforcing the IP. So I think enforcement of IP and digital, as our Prime Minister Shri Modi ji has said, India is going to be a digital economy leader. So no, digitizing IP is very critical. Enforcement of IP will be easier if you have IP registered and in your name. So it becomes very critical that digital IP is very critical in any growing economy.
All right, all right. So I'd like to just deviate a bit, and I'd like to ask you, with the entry of foreign firms into India, how do you think that this scenario is going to change? What are the pros and cons that you'd like to outline from that?
See, if you ask me honestly, you must be seeing that right now with major multinational companies, we are already taking advices from foreign firms. If you have a advice that needs to be taken in say London or say UAE, then you reach out to some of the major law firms in in those area like in Magic Circle. You reach out to Magic Circle, and so it's very important that you welcome with open arms the entry of foreign law firms in India. It is certainly going to raise the benchmark, the legal benchmark within the country, and our domestic law firms are no inferior. They are ready to scale up to the next level to meet the challenges. I think competition is a welcome thing in the industry. I think foreign law firms should be welcome in the country. That will set the next level of benchmark for the country in the legal industry. And I think very soon the dream of India being a alternate dispute resolution process capital is going to be realized with the entry of foreign law firms.
All right. So I'd like to just ask you to give our viewers a taste of what are the benefits and what are the key things in arbitration and moderation process, if you can point out those things. Second thing I'd like to ask you is the confidentiality part. So at times we have seen that the things get leaked in media, the investors, because of the negative news, they lose interest in the company, and at times the distressed assets become more vulnerable. So just give me a comment on that, how important, and then the confidentiality part.
Yeah, so I feel that arbitration and mediation are very important in alternate dispute resolution process. Not everyone can go to the court or should not go to the court because already 50 million cases are pending in the court.
Okay.
So just before COVID, it was 30 million and now it is 50 million. There has been an increase in the number of cases pending in the court. More than 60% increase has happened. So I think it is high time, arbitration and alternate dispute resolution process, ADR has to be encouraged. And you will be happy to hear that mediation has been successful in more than 66% of the cases that has been referred to it. So I think, this ADR and especially mediation should be encouraged because 66% of the cases is not a low in number.
Very nice.
And that much burden in our legal system will be reduced. So I think that's a welcome step. And next question about your confidentiality obligation is concerned. I think the parties that are entering into any dispute resolution process or settlement, it's important that they first enter into a non-disclosure agreement so that they are bound by the confidentiality obligation by both the parties, and they don't disclose any of the settlement process, whether it has failed or it has succeeded, how the settlement process has happened, because each settlement process is separate. It need not come to the forum. Ultimately, what happens is the settlement has happened, that is critical. So I think entering into a non-disclosure agreement to have a binding confidentiality obligation on the parties that are entering into a dispute resolution process is critical.
Okay. So with personal data law, I would like to ask you, as we have said that the digitization thing is going on, but with that the collateral damage that we can anticipate is the cyber attacks and the ransomware attacks that is happening everywhere. So what should be the right mechanism, and is there any standards that we can opt for? One of the Europe standard for personal data law is very nice. In India it's although different. What are the differences and what are the things that we can imitate from other regulations so that we can plug in our loopholes here in India?
In India, it's high time that Personal Data Protection Act comes in. I think in 2019 when GDPR
Yes.
was floated in Europe. It was a lot of hue and cry, and all corporates which are operating out of Europe or which were having GDPR obligation were running helter and shelter to understand how to be compliant with GDPR. But if you ask me, GDPR is not the only privacy law, though it has taken the center stage and the limelight. There is a Philippines data protection law, which is more critical. There is Australian privacy law, which is very critical as either also. So there are privacy laws are prevalent in other parts of the globe. In India, I think we should have privacy law. It's good to know that it has been approved by the Parliament, and it is going to be be
Become
in
an
law
act.
very soon. So it's a welcome step. I think we are looking forward to and embrace the privacy law in India very soon.
Okay, a small minute thing about the Personal Data Protection Act. So we are mandating the companies which we find very critical in nature, the data. So they have to store data in India. Whereas as you mentioned, that GDPR doesn't have a provision as that. They just ask कि कितना data आप कर रहे हो, ये सब you have to tell us. So that aspect is very different. Any comments on that?
Yeah. So
Will
earlier,
it in a way, just sorry to
Yeah.
interrupt you, will it in a way, make it, reverse for the companies outside, that why they will establish their data centers in India?
So I feel the privacy law that is going to come should encourage business or should enable business rather than curtail the business.
Yes.
There was earlier a restriction in the Indian privacy law also, that which is yet to be floated, that all data has to be hosted within the country, within the boundary. But I think in the recent law that is going to come, that has been diluted to quite a large extent. So that's a welcome step. But they have taken steps from GDPR and other countries where where you see that not only the data is not only hosted within the Europe, it can also be hosted in other countries, provided they are adequately having laws to protect the data. I think that is what even in India we should have. The data can go outside the Indian territory, outside Indian borders also, provided that country has enough adequate data protection regulation to protect the interest of data subjects who are residing in India.
All right. So basically the country needs to be trustworthy in itself.
Correct.
So the last question that I'd like to ask you is on the ESG. So after SEBI's mandate, companies have started showing their interest in conveying their ESG reports. BRSR is there. So what standard, because it is very subjective in nature still, the things that they outline in the report. What standards are there that we can look forward to on a global scale, so that the companies which are having headquarters in other countries also, when they come to India, they don't find the disparity in the standards. What optimal standards can we opt for?
So ESG is going to be critical in the coming days, especially for the listed companies. I think it is going to be the future. ESG is a law that is going to be very critical, and already companies are showing interest in ESG. I think rather than showing your profitability level at a higher level, we should strive to show our compliance with the ESG requirement so that we are compliant with the laws. I think it's a welcome step. I think with the listed companies, it should also extend to other corporates as well. ESG compliance is very critical for the corporates in India. It's welcome, actually.
So we can take a note from here that the ESG is very critical for the companies coming ahead, and right now for the sustainability also. That's it from our side. Thank you so much, Mr. Kumar, talking to me.
Thank you.